Good morning and welcome. My name is Sorel Kitan. My partner in crime, not crime, really great deeds and transformation is Giovanni Gonzalez, who is the co-founder of the Daily Huddle. We're here every single day, but we're only here because of the generosity of the men and women who call themselves hosts of the Daily Huddle. And this morning, I have the privilege and honor of introducing you once more. If you didn't know it, you are in great hands on Mindset Monday with none other than host Keith Lisenbee. Keith, thank you so much for being here. And in the world of people who want to make a difference, you are this human being who says, I'm going to find out everything I need to know about human behavior, from the brain and what it does and what it creates for us, to the emotions and feelings it triggers and how we deal with them, and to the ways of being that leaders, business owners, family members, husbands, wives want to create for themselves. That your speaking, your hosting provides them access to that which they want most out of life. And man, I cannot thank you more for that kind of commitment, that kind of stand. And I am so elated that you are one of the hosts of the Daily Huddle. Welcome to your Mindset Monday, and thank you for being here.
Thank you so much, and you're very welcome. And you know, we're going to be on a very wonderful journey on Mondays, Mindful Mondays, which will be a weekly pause for everybody to explore the science of emotion, behavior, and just being human. And it's like the basic foundation to start off everyone's week. So definitely wonderfully happy to be here and to contribute to the Daily Huddle and to everyone's great start to the week ahead, work and life wise. So
Yeah, and as we're introducing you, warming up, well, not even warming up, because I think you just threw yourself in the deep end of the pool with no preservers or anything, life preservers or anything. And you're taking us for the first few episodes through what I'm deeming behavioral health and human behavior 101.
mhm.
And today is one of those episodes where people get to find out inside of this question, where do emotions come from? You know, that's just so intriguing, so crazy, simple the answer could be, but yet I bet you no one knows what you're going to say.
Yes, and thank you for giving me the compliment that I jump into the deep end of the pool, which is just that's been my style. You know, it's like why not? Why not me? Why not you? You know, just
Yeah.
jump in and do it. I tell my clients in all of my practices that it's like lean into the discomfort. Just lean into it because and I'll talk a little bit more about it actually in this episode of what that actually means. But just lean into it and make it a daily thing and make it a habit. And then you retrain your whole brain and you've done it. You've done something new, which is always a really magical thing.
Yeah. So, simple yet very profound question. Where
Yes.
do emotions come from? How do you want to unpack that?
So we've all, and you've all been told that your emotions are automatic reactions. You probably have said things or heard things from other people like, you made me mad, or that just triggered me, or you made me upset. But what if that is not how emotions work at all?
So,
What
wait a
if,
minute.
yeah,
Are you saying that when I'm in traffic and somebody cuts me off, are you telling me that they're not to blame for my anger?
no, they're not.
Oh, come
No,
on.
they're not to blame at all, right? So what our brain does is, and again, what if we look at it from a different standpoint? The old classic view is that something happens in our world and we react to it. That's the classic view. We have all been taught from, from I don't know when, but all the way up until very recently. But now the study in neuroscience has completely changed this. And it's actually the other way around, right? The other way around is that our brain actually builds our feelings for us moment by moment, like an artist mixing colors on a palette.
Hmm.
And with that being said, and this is part of the groundbreaking work that one of the most current renowned neuroscientists in psychology by the name of Dr. Lisa Feldman Barrett, who is the most cited neuroscientist in the world right now, based on her studies and theories on the science of emotion and where emotions actually come from. She wrote a book back in 2017. It was called How Emotions Are Made. It was in 2017. She wrote that. She also wrote a companion book just recently called 7.5 Lessons for the Brain. And her theories and studies have transformed the idea of where emotions come from. So the what we know from her work is that the science shows that your brain interprets and constructs emotions, not just receives it, as I said before.
Hmm.
So they're not reflexes. It's not the person cut you off and then you got mad, right? It's a very different story. And so the core theory of Dr. Barrett is that emotions are constructed by your brain using prediction and interpretation, not hardwired reactions. It's not like the movie Inside Out, where you got these baked five emotions that run around and do stuff. No, it's actually very different. It's based on prediction. The brain's main job is to predict. It is not its job to think. Its job is to regulate. And the best way for the brain to regulate in the most efficient way possible is to predict what it thinks will happen next based on past experience, bodily signals, and situational cues.
Now, this puts me in a conundrum.
Yes.
If the brain is not reacting and it's predicting, this car that's about to cut me off, are you saying that the emotion called anger is being built by the brain before the event happens?
In essence, yes, it does. Because what happens is our brain is constantly looking and sensing everything that is going on in our environment. So to take your example, you're on the road, you're on the highway, cars are everywhere, and so forth. As the brain receives this information, the brain is attempting to determine whether or not these events that are currently happening right now are consistent with something that has happened before or something that is very similar to what has happened before. And then once that box is checked that, yeah, this is something we've experienced before, then it automatically then predicts that something very similar will happen next in the process. So it
Mhm.
expects and predicts that we will think a certain way, feel a certain way, do a certain thing, and then sends signals to our body, which we label as physical sensations, send signals to our body to allocate resources to handle what the brain thinks will happen next. But here's the thing, those bodily sensations we label conceptually and in a whole big category as an emotion.
Mm.
So, with that being
So
said, go ahead.
I was going to say, so it's all physiological, meaning what I call love, what I call being annoyed, what I call being angry, what I call being afraid is totally built by the brain before any event happens. Now, I'm wondering if that's the case, What about chronic conditions? Like I'm continually nervous. I get into crowds. I'm shy. I call myself an introvert. Uh, what about those conditions?
Well, chronic conditions like anxiety, for example, or depression, those can be looked at in two different ways. And also they also have some corresponding kind of tools and strategies to deal with them. But let's start with depression, right? So depression is a metabolic issue, meaning that it is an issue of resources in the body. And when people become depressed, then people's resources have been in their body, have been depleted. And this is the brain's response to depleted resources in the body and in the brain to deal with what is going on day to day. So, what Dr. Barrett would call a body budget deficit. So, the brain is constantly regulating, sending resources, i.e., like salt or glucose or adrenaline or serotonin to the body and to other parts of the brain to respond to things that are in the environment. All of those things are allocations off that body budget. You have too many resources allocated, then what happens is the body in response will feel tired, will feel fatigued, will feel down, will feel irritated, will feel sad. That's actually a sign of a body budget deficit. Now, funny thing about anxiety, one of the biggest tools that Dr. Barrett talked about in her books, and I definitely subscribe to, because this is where modern neuroscience is at right now when it comes to emotions, is that those words, anxiety, fear, sadness, trepidation, all of those words, those are concepts. Those are labels that we have been taught since being children to label and conceptualize those physical sensations that we're feeling. And those words have meaning in our culture and in our family, in our lives. Those words have meaning. But here's the cool thing: anxiety doesn't have to be anxiety. Because remember, it's a physical sensation that we have labeled anxiety. Do you mind if I tell a story that illustrates this really well?
Please,
Okay.
because it's spinning up here, and I've
Okay.
got a question after the story.
Okay. Because as discussed, the brain is predicting what it thinks will happen next based on past history and what's happening in the environment, those signals, in the context of what's happening, right? So when I was in high school, I ran track and cross country. And before my very first race, my stomach was churning. I mean, it was all over the place. I felt like I had demons or butterflies or something in my stomach. I had no idea what was going on. I thought I was sick. I thought I was ill. I thought I was going to literally, all over the
Yeah.
place right before the race starts. So I went up to my coach, first race, and I said, Coach, I'm feeling like really bad. I'm feeling all these things going on in my tummy. I don't know what to do. And my coach said, That's adrenaline. That's excitement. That's motivation. Go forward, start the race. You'll be fine. That immediately changed my view of the race and what was happening, because the labels now were changed and the meaning behind what I was feeling in that moment changed. And I ran the race.
Hmm. Wow, this is like the lesson of the day for business owners, people in relationships that may not be working as well as they'd like it to, organizations that are failing, where teams are not working together. Could it be that when people actually do know where emotions come from, that they are manufactured by the brain
Mhm.
in a predictive way, that being at the mercy of emotions is for the first time something that I don't have to be that way. I don't have to be at the mercy of my emotions. I could actually say, oh, that's adrenaline. And in saying that, I'm actually saying that this is just normal. That's what the brain and the body does when I'm in this situation.
Absolutely right. And one of the key things that is one of the massive tools to use in order to really help to kind of help other people, help yourself to reconceptualize or relabel those physical sensations is to have new experiences. So people have heard of a strategy to manage anxiety issues and PTSD issues, phobias, like which is called exposure therapy. Now, in exposure therapy, someone's exposed slowly to something that they feel anxious about and learn to become comfortable with it. Well, this is Dr. Barrett's idea here is a little bit similar but different. The idea here is have new experiences. If
Period.
you've had experiences similar in the past that were nerve-wracking, anxiety-provoking, you caused you a lot of trepidation, and then you went and you leaned into the discomfort of that, learn to tolerate it, and you do it multiple times over and over and over again until it becomes a habit, you then have rewired your brain to predict differently in the next similar situation that comes up.
So
And
instead
that is how
of
we have agency over our emotions. That's how we have more control. That we're not victims of our own emotions, like, as we think or used to think we are. We have agency. We can do those things.
could you
And
paint two pictures for me? Because this is critical. People, business owners, family members, husbands and wives, you name it, can have agency when they practice what?
multiple different things. So number one, I would advise everyone to expand their emotional vocabulary. Okay. There's something called an emotion wheel. You can go in and Google and find an emotion wheel that gives you more labels to use in relation to how you those sensations that you are feeling. The more precise you are around how you feel, the better you're going to be. You're going to be in more control. The more words you have, the more control you have. So when you think about, well, I'm angry because that guy cut me off. Well, is it anger? Were you irritated? Or are you disappointed? Or do you feel betrayed?
Hmm.
Those are very more granular emotions. So that's number one. Number two, improve your ability to monitor and tune into your physical sensations. Do a body scan, track how your body feels when you are more emotional. Okay. And then manage that body budget, because the brain's main job is to regulate, not think. And by regulating, it predicts what's going to happen next. How do you improve the brain's ability to regulate? By making sure the body budget's in place. And I know in the 8 tenets that talks about this, which we'll talk about a little bit later, but the main things on that are sleep, hydration, proper food, and exercise. That all improves our body budget over time and makes our brain more able to regulate us, and it helps our emotions at the same time. It allows a tired brain to be better and to predict more positively.
So now we know where emotions come from. And I have a sense, I'm not a doctor like you are, but I have a sense of how we've come in this country to deal with emotions. Sometimes we take pills. Given what you've just said, are you saying that managing body budget is an alternative to medication?
Well, I'm not a medical doctor, so I want to be really, really careful. Medication can be, for many, many people, very, very helpful. But to best answer your question, I will cite multiple studies that show, for example, if we took a group of people who were suffering from depression and anxiety and separated them into two groups randomly, and we gave one group antidepressant medication, and that's it. And we gave the other group exercise, better food, better hydration, more better sleep, therapy only, no medication. And then can't have them all come back in 90 days to see how they improve. Then the studies have shown that each group improved in the same way.
Hmm. So,
So I would say in that sense, yes, it's an alternative. And I would also argue very vehemently that better food, drink more water, get more exercise, get better sleep, things that, things very, fairly basic, but sometimes hard to do things. I would argue that that's a lot better for us in the long run than medication. Now, with that said, medication does help people who are at a significant body budget deficit and may allow them to get to a point where they're able to do those things more efficiently and better, like exercise and get better sleep and things like that. So medication definitely has its place, but it's not the capital A answer.
so would I be going out on a limb if I made this statement? For people in the bowels of corporations in corporate America who are stressed and not performing as well as they know they could, for senior executives who are actually lamenting the fact that I've got a bunch of smart people, and you know what? I pay them a lot of money and they still can't work together. And what we want to deliver, they're not delivering on time. I'm making this leap that if this same group of people were to engage in self care practices, like you're pointing to, better sleep, better food, better exercise, and all of that, that their performance would improve. Is that the case?
I would say I mean, there isn't a study alive that I've seen or read that says anything different. Yes, absolutely, fundamentally 100%. Because going back to the idea of how our emotions operate, if we are better, if we're doing all those things, then our brains have a better body budget to work with, so it can allocate more resources more efficiently. Its ability to regulate and predict things that will happen next based on past history and the environment is so much better. Its predictive power is better. Therefore, the emotions that are created from this are more positive. And obviously, when people are in a better mood, then they are more likely to get work done together, individually, otherwise.
Well, let's take a look, Keith, and see if anyone in the studio audience has a question or a comment. Uh, Maria.
Okay, I had to find the mute button. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Okay, great. Thank you. And Keith, thank you for everything that you're sharing with us. I'm deeply grateful, and I have a question. I looked up the emotion wheel, and there are many of them. And then I found one that's so colorful and goes very detail oriented. And it seems like if a person's needs are being met, there are certain emotions tied with that, and then vice versa. Do you find that to be the case? Like, I'll have certain emotions because my needs are being met, and then other emotions when my needs are not being met. That's my question.
Absolutely. And one of Dr. Barrett's more famous quotes when she talks about the importance of social connections is that one of the best things for people's people's ability to have their brain regulate better is social connections. And one of the most important things for us to have is humans. And sometimes it's the other way around because we could be around humans that are not real helpful in helping us de-stress and cause maybe even more aggravation. So one of the best things we can do is have good people around that are going to elevate us, help us grow, and keep kind of help us keep our peace. And But one of the worst things we can do is have a lot of people around who are going to be at exact opposite.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you. That resonates with me big time. And thank you. And so my practice is to uplift and empower people. So what I've
Mhm.
found myself doing lately that resonates with this is just call friends and say, hey, I'm calling to keep our friendship alive. And then we go from there. So thank you for being on the Daily Huddle.
Yeah, thank you, and you're very welcome. And do you mind if I add probably add another tip also to that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Offer anything.
All right. So one of the things I'm telling a lot of the people I work with in my clinical practice is if you have three people in your life that you can just reach out to, call, text every day, three people, and make it a habit with you and those three people, reach out and text each other, call each other every day just to say, hey, how are things? What's going on? And so forth. That can make, I think, a dramatic difference on people. Three people to reach out to every day. And it can be by text or by phone. But make it start it with three people and make it a habit.
Okay, I have one question about that. I will take that on in. Does it have
Mhm.
to be the same three people every day for the rest of my life?
No, of course not. You can change that up. People are going to drop
Right.
off the top three list of on there. Coming, but no, it does not have to be the same three people for the rest of your life.
Okay, I was
And
just
so forth.
checking. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Uh, well, in 2 minutes, the question is, where do emotions come from? And having a powerful answer for that question leaves human beings uh, with agency. That's the word you used.
Mhm.
Uh, what do you now want to say and leave us with today to take our powerful answers to this question and make it a practice that enables us and empowers us throughout the rest of our lives?
The big reveal about how emotions are, how we have them in the first place, is the magic shift from the fact that emotions are not hardwired. They are constructed by our brain. They are not triggered by things. They are predicted. And so that is the big reveal there, is that our brain predicts things that are happening in our environment based on, or what we're going to do next, feel next, think next, based on our past history and what is happening in the moment. And so that is the big reveal. And so with that said, those labels that I talked about around how we label those physical sensations as either anxiety or motivation, those are concepts that we have learned. Therefore, we can unlearn them and change the dynamic of what those sensations mean, and therefore change our brain's predictions. In terms of empathy, which is something that I've talked about, intentional empathy, the idea there is if your emotions are constructed from your past in your body, in yours, then so is everyone else's. The coworker, that partner, that stranger, your brains are running on different scripts. Those emotions are not irrational or universal. They're deeply personal acts of meaning.
And they're not intentional either, or are they?
No, the emotions themselves are clearly not intentional. They are, physical sensations that we put labels on based on that person's past history and what their body is sensing and feeling in the moment.
Gosh,
So you can
open a
take,
can of worms here, man.
yeah,
So you mean that one person that gets on my last nerve
mhm.
is not getting on my last nerve?
What's happening is our body is sensing, or brain is picking up on signals. And based on our past history of dealing with people in that way, in that context, in that situation, it's reading that, oh, this is similar to something that I've dealt with before in my past, similar situation. And then the brain predicts, this is going to happen again. So this is what's going to happen next. This is what I'm going to think. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I feel. That's the brain's prediction, and then send sensations to our body that we then label as emotions. And then we have meaning to those emotions, and then we respond.
Mm. And if the brain is predicting, we very likely respond in the same way every time.
Right. And you can take two different people, put them in the same situation at the same time, and their brains will predict the same thing. They will predict differently because they're two different people, two different past experiences, and two different body sensations that they're having and signals that they're picking up on that are leading to those predictions. So their brains are going to predict differently, even in the same situation.
Wow. That's it, man. Well, for the very first time, ladies and gentlemen, Keith Lisenbee is going to take us home with the 8 tenets of the Daily Huddle.
Thank you so much for that handoff. Thank you so much. Yes, the 8 tenets of the Daily Huddle, extremely important every day. The first one is love. Love. Love freely, love equally. Second one, laugh. Laugh out loud. There is nothing better, I think, except for maybe exercise, actually, but we'll get to that. There's one of these nothing better than laugh out loud, laugh at things, and that definitely helps our brain. Stress less. Yeah. That body budget, that body budget is going to tell you when it's getting close to a deficit when you're under stress. So stress less. Eating, very, very important. Eat mostly a plant-based diet. That helps our body regulate and our brain regulate so much better. Give freely. Give of yourself, give of your time. Sleep, 7 hours. 7 hours, good quality sleep. One of the greatest things ever to do. Make sure you get that sleep in there. Move. Yeah, just like I said earlier, movement and exercise, good sleep, all those things. But movement is one of the top things you can do right now, this second, to help your brain, help your emotions, and help those around you. And lastly, check your assumptions. Like in the example used, what you think that person might be feeling and thinking and doing may not be what you think. So check that assumption at the door. Be curious. That's it. That's the 8, y'all.
And that's today's huddle. Tomorrow, Andrea Villa will be with you. She's on the communications and relationship team, and you will get a shot in the arm and a shot in the heart, as we all promise. I love you. Giovanni loves you more, and the other hosts love you even more. This is your Daily Huddle for Monday, the 21st of April, 2025. Thank you, Keith.
Thank you.
Thank you.